Hello. Welcome to another episode of Ball Over Passion. I'm your boy, George V_EFC, and we've got a full house for the big one today. This is a big preview. It's a big game. Pretty shit football today, but we are back with the Three Musketeers. How's everybody doing? Curran, you doing good?
Oh, good, buddy. Just we've got a lot of pictures and things going on. That's why we're late, guys. It's actually my fault this time, so I'll take full responsibility. But yeah, just looking forward. I think everyone's got a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I think it's we're gonna get into it. I think for me, this is probably for me the most important game of the season so far. So let's see what's going to happen, and let's see what the rest of the guys think about it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's I get so many messages on Twitter for the narrative of this game in terms of what it means and in general, and I just for me, I'm always somebody that just doesn't look at that stuff. Everyone keeps saying, well, what if we lose? What if we do this? What's the narrative going to be? And, we could discuss the impact. But for me, fundamentally, I just want to see us pull up to a big six away side and keep our fundamentals of the season. Whether we lose or not, I really don't care about the result. I really don't. I think what I was annoyed with last time is us going up against United and abandoning a lot of our principles over 90 minutes. And that's really what annoyed me the most. But I'll go to Chris. He's back, everybody. So, Chris, how you doing, mate? How you looking forward to the game? Like, what do you think about the narrative that's building on Twitter, and not just like Twitter, but social media in general? Because everyone's waiting for us to lose so that they can kind of go back and say, "See, I told you so," or they're not. This is the same old, same old. And I put up a little thing on the Twitter sphere when we keep referencing that Boxing Day 2020 move. And it's insane when you start to look at the consistency of this team that people are still questioning what our process is. But what do you make of the narrative in terms of this team?
Well, I, so I'm confident that was your first thing. Like, how are you feeling about the game? Are you nervous? Like, as I always say, I'm never really nervous or anything for a game, because I feel like to be a good team, you have to go into games of pressure, and to play Liverpool, for it to be like this important to us, with us being like 11 points ahead of them. So even if they win, we're still, which I don't think they will, but even if they win, we're still 8 points ahead. But it does hurt our title race. But I'm confident. I like the narrative around the team right now. Everyone's confident. Saliba, best centre back in the world, shouts. Gabriel Jesus obviously can't get the best 9 in the league when there's a guy who scored in every game in Haaland. But I like the narrative around the team right now. I think it's much better. Like, it's much more positive. And obviously, last year, even if we were winning, it was still like very, oh, we're gonna lose the next one. We're gonna lose the next one. We're gonna lose the next one. That's how it felt after every win last season. And this season has been very different. Like, it's not been a, oh, we're waiting for a loss type of thing. It's on to the next. We're gonna win the next. We're gonna win the next. So I like that change from how the team is perceived. But I'm just confident, and I think the team's confident. And like, I like the Gabriel Jesus interview about his confidence, about being a 9, about wanting to win the league with his team. Like, I like seeing that stuff. With Liverpool around them, it's just weird right now with the injuries. Like, I've seen people that are Klopp out. Like, I've seen a lot of weird stuff around them, but I just think you can't. If anyone is negative 8 games into the season with 7 wins, then I don't know what you can expect, because there's 3 teams in Prem history who have won 8 on the bounce at the start. So there's literally nothing. There's nothing better we could have done to start the season. 8 games in, second least shots conceded, like bottom 5 for goals conceded. Like, we've been very, very good this season. So any negativity doesn't make any sense.
Well, one thing that I really wanted to highlight is, I really agree. I keep having to calm people down, and I don't understand. Liverpool are not a bad team. Like, I don't know where this narrative came about that Liverpool are a poor team. I think it's there's a lot of stuff that can match up. I keep saying on Twitter there's a lot of key matchups that we'll discuss. Look, we have to discuss, Gabriel Martinelli's form, the most dribbles completed in the league against Trent's form. We'll talk about how, when they changed to Rangers, and we kind of talked about this here on BoP quite a while, that Klopp is going towards his Dortmund model. I think we were the first people, I never saw it in the media. Like I kept saying, listen, with Nunez kind of coming in, he's going to be changing the system. And we finally saw that real switch come in. And I always felt that Trent was going to go back into a 3-2 in that rest defense. And we finally saw it for the first time against Rangers. So I'm really aware about the spaces that we need to attack. And that Trent kind of Martinelli space is going to be something that we definitely did last time at home, by the way. If you remember, early clip balls from Aaron Ramsdale out to Martinelli was the major form, of getting us like up the pitch. And so that's going to be absolutely very key. Long key switches into those channels very early is going to be key in this game. But, this idea that Liverpool are poor is a very big stretch. They've had a lot of key injuries. And if they had their midfield fit, they still are very clearly the third best team in the league in terms of any metric that you look at. And then when you look at the amount of injuries that they've had, the only reason that they're not competing at the very top with the consistency that we know that they have is because of the fact they have no midfield. And we, of all teams, know what it's like to lose a big midfield general and the impact that has on your team. I think Liverpool.
But they didn't just lose one. Sorry to cut you off, but they didn't just lose one. They've lost Fabinho, Henderson, and Thiago at different stages this season already.
Yeah.
And we're only 8 games in. So, and with Liverpool, like as you said, the metrics are there for them. They've been a top 3 caliber team this season. I just think, obviously, they're not to the same degree, but they're experiencing what we experienced, where you're dominating games, but certain things in your team are allowing other teams to have success. And when you allow a team like Brighton, for example, to score 2 goals early, like from silly mistakes, that's why they keep losing. Obviously, they're gonna bounce back, and they're gonna bounce back hard. Like they're not gonna be like this.
Yeah.
For this long, like 8 games into the season, 11 points behind. I think that gap is gonna close very quick, simply because they're a very good team. But we can't underestimate them. I hope the team doesn't do what certain fans are doing.
Well, I'm happy because I don't think we will. We have a lot of history between Mikel Arteta and Klopp. They don't like each other, and as much as you want to look at the press conferences, as kind of impetus, I think it's what's really going to be great is you're basically going up a Klopp team right now that are still set in a transition. And I did say at the beginning of the season, look, these 90-point seasons, I think I would put some worry on. I don't think we're going to be getting that, and a big part was because there's a lot of teams going in transition. Liverpool primarily among them, going back with this pivot was something that they were doing for quite a while. But, City have been doing it as well, putting Kyle Walker, by the way, in that pivot. I think right now Liverpool are struggling to get out. And so what's happening is they're having to drop a little bit deeper. Instead of going 2-3 in their build up, they've had this 3-2. And Trent has had to slot in. And we saw that primarily versus Rangers. And it was something that we're going to have to exploit. So I think we bid no further ado. We get up the tactical board and we try to talk about some of the spaces that we're going to be looking at. And, firstly, I was kind of talking about this, and I'll go to Kern first, but let me just explain this kind of board that we've got over here. And so when I'm talking about a 3-2 kind of metric that, Liverpool were doing against Rangers, 2 is going to be Trent. And then you've got, I think Matip and, Van Dijk are going to be kind of those other 2 defenders in the back there. And what they've struggled to do is, despite Allison having a really good start to the season, and I think Allison's been their best player, shock horror, he's been their best player for quite a while, but he's been doing well. But what they've struggled to do is have number 8, which is typically Henderson. He is not the same player anymore. And that entire our left-hand side or their right-hand side has been the reason that they've really, really struggled, combined with, the wide outlet in terms of Luis Diaz being not consistent in terms of holding onto the ball all the time. And they're really missing that Sadio Mane outlet that they've had on both ends. And that's really what's crippled Liverpool. So how did they solve it? They tried to add somebody deeper so that they could help progress the ball. And I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to look forward to is that Xhaka versus Henderson kind of matchup, in a sense where Henderson is going to try to overlap. He's not going to have the same athletic ability to do so. And we need to make sure that we're going to be exploiting that Martinelli switch, which is you're going to kind of transition into something like this, where when we have the ball, whether that's through the center back or through our goalkeeper, we're going to try to find very quick early balls out wide against this kind of 3-2, where we try to hit Martinelli early. We try to hit Saka early. And we're going to try to see us work their back line in this instance, where we're going to go out to in as quickly as we can. But firstly, I'm going to go to Curran, mate. in terms of what are the big matchups that you're looking to see here? We kind of had a little bit of a funny exchange in terms of being a little confused about how we're going to match up. But fundamentally, when you look at it, you're going to see Salah and Luis Diaz out wide for them. They're going to try to have, Tsimikas on the inside. Um, and we have to look at whether or not it's Jota or Firmino that's going to be used to drop in. I think Jota plays. Personally, for me, I would be more afraid if Jota played, but I think that's who they go with. We really need to make sure that Thomas Partey does a good job in terms of man marking for me in that 1v1, because that one extra player dropping in is going to be something that we need to watch for. They're going to try to create an overload because they're not confident right now building out from the back. Um, and that for me is going to be the very big key matchup. But for you, what is the biggest matchup that you're looking at here for us? And is it KT versus Zinchenko? The very first point on our podcast when we were doing our little preview on Twitter.
Yeah, basically the main matchups for me, and we mentioned them on the BoP review as well. The wide matchups I think is the most important. So you're looking at Trent versus Salah, White versus Diaz, Trent versus Martinelli, and what do you call it, Saka versus Tsimikas. Looks like it will be. I'd like to add to that, obviously, I think Xhaka versus Henderson is going to be massive as well, because I think if you have Xhaka having the ability to come not only to attack both boxes, his ability, you can't have Henderson just basically hanging out in that right channel. He has to come back and he has to help out his man. Otherwise, we have the men inside to really hurt them, especially in transition. So, yeah, you've mentioned the wide battles, but I think it's not only from goal kicks and build up; it's also from final third play. So, for example, I mean, we've got it here somewhere. I'm pretty sure, but the instead of it being Vieira, it could be Erdegaard or Xhaka. The half space crossing to the back post, I think, is going to be so crucial. We've seen Mitrovic dunk on Trent. We've seen them struggle with back post crosses. So I think that's something, definitely a place where we can take advantage. In terms of what else we can do out wide is. We have two very good one-on-one wingers, so they're not just sort of going to be a tap and then lay off the ball. They're aggressive at taking on their marker and getting basically into the box. So we have box threats on both sides. So we have the ability to really shift the play into the box quite well. And you're going up against two fullbacks who don't really prefer defending over going into an attacking situation. So I think that, but on both sides, obviously, and a lot of people are talking about this KT versus Zinchenko thing. For me, I reckon that if it's KT available, then KT should play. I think his ability to come out inside has been underrated severely by this fan base. I think the ability to really go in, attack his man defensively and run back in transition can help Gabriel out a lot, because Gabriel wants to be aggressive in his aerial duels, be aggressive in his duels in general. So you want someone who's able to run back, make that run, and exploit to stop people exploiting that left-hand side, which they've been doing this season. So yeah, a couple of things. The last thing I'm going to mention is basically in terms of what we need to look at this in terms of a matchup. We have to take advantage in this first half, because you see in this first half, and I've got it here, we are the best team starting in the league, and Liverpool are the worst team starting in the league, just factually, in the first half. Especially starting games where we're very, very good. We need to take advantage of them basically being a bit slower off the mark instead of and growing into the games, because Liverpool have that mentality and the mental fortitude where they've been in the sticky situations, Barcelona 4-0 down, etc. They know that they have the ability and the mental fortitude to get back into games. So we have to really put the game back into a situation where we can really exploit their, maybe even sort of like their self-doubt within themselves, where they're not sure whether they can compete at this level even. So I just think that it's a game where we have to be the aggressors. We have to take advantage of the newly sort of the new Emirates Stadium as it is, the atmosphere that we've generated, the mood around the crowd, because I was saying on Twitter as well that football is not just a game built on the tactical board or built on emotions purely. You can't just have either. It's a balance between both, and if you have both in available to you as a team, you need to use every bit of that as possible. We have a tactically drilled team by this manager for the better part of 12 to 18 months now. We've been improving week on week. We're improving month on month, and we now have a team that's settled. That back four seems to be quite settled. Xhaka and Partey are a settled partnership. Odegaard seems to be relishing his role, and obviously the two wingers are settled in and know what they need to do. And Jesus has come in and been a revelation. So we have a very settled team. We have a very relaxed team. So we have to really go and aggressively attack them that first half. So yeah, that's my
No, it's going to be important, right? Because we are obviously clearly, as per that little quick graphic, I don't know if anybody had time to really have a look at it, but let's just have a top look up top there. Arsenal again, we have an excellent start in terms of what we like to do in the first 45 minutes. We start strong, we start well with our press. And of course, Liverpool have done really poor this season to start strong. And that really comes down to their press not being what it is. And that's really the heart and soul of Liverpool Football Club. They have been the best pressers in the world for quite a while, but just not this season. And that comes down to really their midfield. And I think the midfield battle is going to be key. And, I'm going to go to Chris to give his little ideas before we get into the predictions. But in terms of these last minute tactical matchups, I think, I want to give you some meat to chew on with the Kieran Tierney and Zinchenko bit, because me and you have been pissed in the wings and on Twitter trying to defend this man in terms of what he offers. And, I think this is very important for us to have defense in terms of that back channel, because Mohamed Salah is going to be their biggest outlet threat. But also, I think Martin Odegaard, something that we really highlighted in the BoP preview last year, is going to have a super important role making sure that Thiago doesn't get in on the ball. And, I think, Yo-Yo, you kind of mentioned whether or not we get man-marked. Well, I think they'll look to man-mark Partey, but it won't be as successful because we've got quite a bit of players now in the back line that are very good progressors. So between Saliba, Partey, and Ben White, you've got a multitude of players to really kind of progress from an Arsenal perspective. But from a Liverpool perspective, Thiago is so important to making sure that they click, that Martin Odegaard is going to have an extremely important job in terms of a little bit of a man marking job from him. And it was actually something that faltered last year, if you guys remember, in terms of every time that we've played Liverpool, that, Martin let Thiago get a little bit more inside, and, Partey had too much of a big space to cover. And, I think Martin has to be extremely diligent in terms of making sure that he doesn't let Thiago turn or face us, because as soon as you give him time and space, he will burn you, and he will burn you quick. So for me, that's going to be a very important matchup. Of course, we talked about Xhaka versus Henderson, and the Martinelli versus Trent form is something that you just can't not miss. Martinelli, best dribbler in the league by a clear margin, as well as creating the second most chances in the league underneath Kevin De Bruyne with 32 shot creating actions right now, against Trent, who has struggled. But one thing I want to make note of, by the way, if you take a look at Trent, the Athletic did a really brilliant piece in terms of his 1v1 defending. And, a lot of times people have come into question, but, Trent's biggest attribute is defending deep in his zone. And that's really because that's when he's got numbers around him and he makes really good, tackles that are deep into his box. So that is actually not a big worry for me. What we really need to make sure is to have Martinelli start out wide, but cut inside. If we do that and we give him space to do that, as Martinelli has done all season, by the way, he's stretched the line brilliantly, but he's been able to come inside. And, he's talked about that switch with Xhaka, where when he does know to come inside after receiving, Xhaka will attack the fullback to create the space for him to attack centrally. But Chris, I wanted to give you your opportunity to kind of really have a look right now. What is the biggest key matchups, and why is it Kieran Tierney and Zinchenko?
Well, before I go into that, I want to say I agree with Karen that we need to start fast, because Liverpool do generally allow other teams to start fast. In their last 10 games, 9 of them they conceded first, and the one they didn't concede first in was 9-0 versus Bournemouth. So they do allow teams to score first, and then they do try to get back into the game. But when we score first, I think we do well to see out the game. So I think the first 30 minutes will be very important, and I think we have to start fast. Obviously, I think my thoughts on Kieran Tierney and Zinchenko are very prevalent. People really know what I want. out of them two. Do I hate Zinchenko? No. Do I think he's a bad player? No. Like, but I prefer Kieran Tierney, especially for like this matchup against Salah, who's going to aim to pretty much stay touchline. Um, as Pep Linder said, they want him to be touchline and be more involved in the playmaking. So we're going to have to try to stop Salah, and and Firmino and other players runs in that channel, but mainly Salah. And I think KT 1v1 is arguably our best defender and definitely our best left back 1v1. He's also very underrated technically because people always say Zinchenko is better technically, but when they talk about technique, like is striking the ball technique, yes, which is ball striking, and one of them is much better at ball striking than the other, and positioning.
But
And
can we sorry, just to really quickly cut you off, can we just say it what it is? It's aesthetic, technical bias. They
yeah,
really like how fluid Zinchenko is receiving in different angles, and that's what they call technique. They're not calling the other facets of being on the ball, the varied crossing technique, the ball striking, as you mentioned. And by the way, Kieran Tierney, who has shown a lot of impetus in terms of his recent cameos with these weak foot slip balls between the lines, as well as his crossing versus Bodo, he was phenomenal between the lines, receiving in the middle of the park in the so-called inside role. But sorry, go on, Chris.
and Versuric as well. Wait,
Yeah,
um, but I think Tierney has been our better left back this season, and I just don't want to risk having what happened versus United happen again, where our left back
mm.
allows the right winger to peel off him that easily, because we can't again like versus United conceding first really kills the game, especially when you're chasing against the top side and like Liverpool, who, as I said, 9 out of 10 games they've conceded first, and the one time they didn't, they won 9-0. So I think we do need to start fast, but also Martinelli Trent is always a big one in Liverpool Arsenal games, especially last season. That 1v1 battle will be 1v1 a lot of the time. Like we're going to force that 1v1 a lot. Last time Henderson did well to try and cover, but that happened. That resulted in that Martinelli run, if you remember, where he nutmegged Henderson, went to the byline, and we should have scored. But that consistently will be what we aim to do, I think. And then Saka 1v1 isn't what we'll aim to do, but it will happen. Like there will be times where he's 1v1 versus Robertson, and I think we need to take advantage of that.
Simicast. Robertson,
Yeah,
isn't it?
sorry.
Yeah.
But I also do think, just like last time, when I was there, the game was won and lost in the 6 yard box. Not even just 18 yard. The 6 yard box was where they won the game. Jota and Firmino won that game for them last time, 2-0. And that's what we need to do. Like, take your chance when you get in the box, because if you don't, just like we did in versus Man City 2-1, we're going to lose the game because the quality that's going to be on the pitch is going to take one chance to score. Jota, Firmino, Salah, Diaz, like even Diaz's goal versus Crystal Palace, that can happen versus us. Like you can defend well for 90 minutes, but that much quality will happen. So I think we need to take our chances. And us being us, like even Jesus said it, that they left the pitch angry versus Leicester because they wasted so many chances.
Well, he
Despite
should. I
scoring
mean,
four. And we
yeah,
can't afford that tomorrow.
he's going to search for being clinical in a game of fine margins. You need to make sure that you make those count. And for everybody saying Jota goal incoming, though, Jesus, we have our own person that loves to
Yeah,
score.
he's very good record versus Liverpool.
Yeah, he's got 8 goals and assists in 12 games. So, in terms of the narratives, like we have a matchup for every single narrative. And, I just wanted to make sure that we got across, what was going to be really the importance of this game and also how Liverpool aren't crap. That's the one thing I wanted to get across. But realistically, Arsenal have every bit of right to be confident. I had this little bit of an exchange on Twitter where, a very famous kind of Liverpool player was, or fan rather, was just dismissing this idea that Arsenal are going to want to come to their house to win, or our house rather, and win. And I'm like, you're facing the best team in the league with, kind of a very favorable matchups comparing Trent and, Nelly and as well Jesus and Jota narratives. We have every narrative match to what you're going to bring up. And so there's no reason that Arsenal don't become confident. I really do agree that I think Odegaard is going to be super important in this game. I keep warning. I think that inside channel blocking Thiago is going to be massive. And I think
he can't hide. I know I cut you off again, and I'm going to say sorry again, but he can't hide. I posted it on Twitter.
Yeah. Well,
like Odegaard and Zinchenko can't do what they did versus Spurs.
Yeah.
And like let other people run the game. They can't, be hidden between the lines because we need their technique. If they both start, we need their technique on and off the ball. Like, even if you're not going to get in for challenges, at least be present. Like block lines, block passing lanes. If you're not going to come claim the ball, at least do that, because if you're just out of the game, then you're not going to be able to peel off the back of a Højbjerg, because a Fabinho won't let him do that, or Thiago won't let him do that. Like, he won't find as much space as he did versus Tottenham by hiding. Like, I don't think Liverpool will allow him the same space. So
Like, yeah.
Odegaard can't do that again. Like, he can't.
The other thing is I know because I was on a Liverpool fan channel yesterday. I talked to one of them yesterday, and the whole their whole hope comes from it's Arsenal. It's like heritage. It's like the Spurs coming to us sort of thing. We always beat Arsenal. That's their hope. And I brought up Martinelli versus Trent, and he goes, "Oh, but Martinelli's never won against Trent." Well, the 1v1 battle was quite clearly in favour of Martinelli, and he quite clearly had him on toes quite a few times, but he hasn't won. And you can't really compete with that. So we have to put this to bed that we can't win. And I was saying to you guys before, when I've said it on Twitter, this is our most important game of the season so far in terms of a challenge, because it's not only a physical, tactical challenge, it's against a team that has a sort of a mental block for us so far. Yeah, under Arteta, we've had that one win in lockdown where we had that win, but we need to get it off from. And I was talking about it yesterday as well. I feel like the way that Liverpool have ground this sort of mental superiority in terms of how they pursue this game is we have lacked technical security in our back line from the end of the Wenger days through to the Emery days and even early Arteta days. We've had guys like Mustafi, Socrates, etc. We've had lack of technical players that are technically secure on the ball. And when you have that and you try and build from the back, you're often going to be caught out. And what Liverpool have is the best high press of this past cycle of the last 5 years. And when you put that together, it leads to constant turnovers, constant basically pressure on your back line. And for the first time in I don't know how long, we have Saliba, we have White, we have Gabriel, who has that moment against Fulham, but in terms of technically on the ball, he is able to find a pass, get the ball through the lines, and he plays from out the back very well. So in terms of what we can do going forward this time, I feel this is the most confident I've been because of their big from the time that Klopp has come in, our biggest weakness has been their biggest strength, and that's not the case anymore. We actually can play out from the back with a very good amount of ease.
Well, Curran, I don't even think I don't even think it's just that we can play out the back. We are the best in the league right now in terms of our build-up quality. And so when we have a look at this game, there's a lot of narratives. We've kind of gone over all of the tactical pieces that we need to really consider. Again, we're going to highlight Kieran Tierney having to start Nelly versus Trent, Martin Odegaard and Granit Xhaka. I don't want to forget that Granit Xhaka versus Henderson is going to be absolutely massive. And of course, Gabriel Jesus, who we kind of saved at the bottom in terms of the records, 8 goal and assists in 12 games, is very comparable to the Jota record that we've got to fear for. So there's a lot of pieces and matchups that we can be confident for as Arsenal fans going through. I think fundamentally what it gets down to is that Liverpool have been poor starters and we have been the best starters in the league. That is when the game is going to be won. In the first 25 to 30 minutes, we need to set the tone to make sure that with our home crowd, we're going to be putting them under pressure. They're going to be coming to our house in terms of the atmosphere. It's going to get to them. And we as players need to stand up and basically just do it, in the words of Nike. So listen, it's that time of the show to really get down into the predictions. So really quickly, I'm going to throw it up on the screen for everybody to have a look at. And I will go really quickly since I'm talking right now. I think this is going to be a tight game. What I think that we do is I think in the first half we blitz them. I really do. I think we get a 2-goal lead. And then in the second half, they get a late goal, and we have a very nervy end, which I don't know if it's going to be really great for everybody watching. But I have that with Saka and Jesus as the goal scorers. So a very tight Arsenal win 2-1. Chris has gone 2-1 as well, and Kern has gone 3-2. Chris, I'll go to you. Back up your talk with the 2-1.
But rarely do we see a game where both teams don't score.
Yes. Lots of goals in this fixture.
Even in at Anfield, we regularly score. Apart from the last one, 4-0, but Lacazette has even scored at that stadium. But I think it's going to be 2-1, just because I think we'll score early. 2 goals, like 2 goals before they score one. I don't want it to be 1-1 because when it's like that versus Liverpool, I'm always stressed. So I need it to be 2-0, and then they get a goal back just because of quality or a stupid little mistake. But then we just, as the best team in the league, just claw it out and show our champions mentality. We move on. We go into Leeds like confident, super confident. 9 games, 8 wins, like best record in the league. That's what I think it will be. But there's a possibility that we could absolutely smash them if they leave the gaps they did versus Brighton. Because what Welbeck did to them, like if they allow for that to happen the first 20 minutes, we can put them to bed. And you can even turn off the game after 20 minutes. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the reason why I've gone with 3-2 is I think that, well, first of all, we've mentioned already, this is the highest scoring fixture in the Premier League. Like in the history of Premier League, this is the highest scoring fixture. I think we start very well. I think we go something like Saka early on, and Jota claims one back, and then Martinelli maybe on the stroke of half time. We go in 2-1. Jesus maybe 65 minutes, and then they claim a consolation, and then it's tight for the last 5-10 minutes or something along those lines. I think there's going to be a lot of goals. I think both Saka and Martinelli score, and I think basically the entire front three scores. But I think Jota will be Jota. One thing we haven't mentioned is Saliba in this preview, and I think that he's going to be so key in terms of being able to marshal that back line, be good in his duels, make sure that we don't get exposed in our 6-yard area, as CK was mentioning earlier. I think that's so key to be able to have that secure presence at the back that everyone trusts. I think he's going to be a very, very, very massive cog in this game, especially with how, the narrative of, not narrative, but in terms of just Liverpool being up for it. He's very good in a derby. We've seen it in PSG games, etc., etc. So I reckon that's going to be massive. I think we've got to start taking points off Man City and Liverpool. I'm tired of not doing it. I'm tired of it. I think we need to start winning. I think we need to start proving that this is our era. This isn't Man City's era anymore. This isn't Liverpool. We need to take about this next cycle as ours. And you see a lot of these Man United fans and Liverpool fans and Chelsea fans, etc., City fans, they all want us to lose tomorrow because deep down, we're feared. We're very, very feared in terms of people see what we're doing. Youngest team in the league, team coming up, start winning game after game, slipping up, but also rebounding very well. We slipped up against United, but we didn't just go on another tear of 3 losses in a row. We bounced back straight away. So it's time to make a statement, boys. It's time to make a statement.
Absolutely. It is time to make a statement. And I think we've got a lot of comments flooding in, so I want to make sure to get everybody down in here. But guys, thank you so much for everybody joining in. It's going to be a big one tomorrow. I think a big game for the neutral. I think it's going to be super exciting for everybody to see. I hope, again, everybody enjoyed this preview. Last minute thoughts are essentially we just need to go out there and do what we've done all season. We do that, I think that Liverpool will be in for a shock. The world will be in for a shock, and that everybody will start to take us more seriously in terms of what we've been doing this season. And it's really that simple. We just got to sit there and keep to our fundamentals. I'm very confident in terms of the crowd. I really think that this is going to play a big role. Too far often in the past, we have gone to Liverpool scared, and I think a lot of people are going there hopefully looking for a draw, but that mentality is not there this season, especially at the Emirates. It's a fortress. Let's keep it a fortress. So let's go out there confident. Let's make sure that the boys get the support that they deserve because I think they need it. It's going to be a tough game, but let's hopefully sign off with a really quick Liverpool 1, Arsenal 2, because we got to have that for the injection. I need 3 on the bounce, lads. I've got 2 and 2, so just Mystic George. We got to keep the juju running. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
McGregor also got knocked out, mate.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We don't talk about that. So we prefer the back-to-back wins. So don't worry. Oh, here, hold on, everybody. So we'll just kind of have to remind everybody on what the table looks like. It's glorious reading at the top there. Just 3-0, 15-9. We love to see that. But on a serious note, I hope you guys
Bigger
enjoyed
gap
the
in
game.
tables,
We
I
will
think.
we will catch you guys probably on Monday for the review. So we will sign off with a big Arsenal win. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You hit the bell for notifications. You hit all the media boys down below at GeorgeV_AFC, Curran at Curran BoP, and of course Chris is at CKFTBL. You can find us at Ball Over Passion on YouTube or at BoP Footy. So thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody
God,
that
Jesus.
is celebrating. I don't know if that's something that happens over the pond, but we do that over here. So stay safe, and we hope to come back with you guys with an Arsenal win. So peace, everybody, and have a good one. Stay safe.
Peace.